Yeah. Right? And I'm not playing no games. Yeah.
All right, folks, welcome to another Comic Talk. This is a little short and sweet and going to have some fun. We got this guy. Oops, sorry, I did it wrong. No one at home is surprised that I point the wrong way, JT.
I do it all the time.
Listen, folks, all of his stuff is in the description. Make sure you connect. It's going to be weird hanging out with him because I spend most of my time listening to that because we're on different time zones. He records late shows. I spend most of my time listening to you at 1.5 to 2 speed, brother. I got to catch up. So it's going to be a little odd. Yeah, Ryan Roger Athe teases me about how much YouTube content I consume at 1.5 to 2 speed because it's just there's so many people generating content. It's like, how do you keep up with so many? Yeah.
That's a good idea. I never thought of that. I wonder how I sound at that speed.
It's not bad. It's fine. You're just a little spot. There's moments where people will talk and you're like, ooh, I pause and go back and adjust it and go through that segment. And but no, we hadn't really had a chance to connect, get our schedules to align. And I know you have sort of like a love for Captain America, and you mentioned some Jack Kirby, and I'm like, man, we have not talked about Kirby, and that should be like a quarterly thing, is to spend time talking about the great Kirby. So you got me going back. I started actually at 100.
Okay.
And I went through like 17 issues, just quickly going back through and spending some time and stuff like that. So before I get too far into all that, though, talk a little bit about your comic background, what you were into. Were into this when you were a kid or not, or kind of like a little bit of that history?
Sure. Well, it's kind of funny that you asked what I used to look at too in my kid area of comics. The very first series I started reading is a series that you're going to start reviewing very soon, and that's the Nightfall with Batman.
Yep.
I really didn't know what comics were. I was probably around 10. I don't know. I was just still kind of like getting into what that was, and I think I was like around that age. And I was at I guess you would call it like an outdoor shopping mall, and someone was selling comics, and he had a whole box full of the Nightfalls from 1 all the way through to the end, and a few others. And he said, "I'll sell you this for a few, about $10 or $20 for my mom." And I had it, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. It's Batman. It's got some cool, drawings. I like the art, and I just loved it from there." And I was kind of a Batman fan at the moment there, because of the 1989 Batman. But he was my first character that I really liked to get into with comics was Batman. But unfortunately, I switched to Captain America because he fit more of my style. Like he likes to help out, the little guy, or he stands up for what's right about the country and things like that. So it just fit as I grew older, that I kind of more migrated toward him. And then I started reading his older books, and I loved them, and I just loved collecting them. Not so much the new ones, but the older classic Jack Kirby comics. I kind of went right towards, and I love the movie, the first Avenger. That was by far, because he never had a really good movie. There was one in the 90s that was pretty fun, but he never really got his shine, right? So I thought that was great. So I was just hooked.
I think his 3 movies are the best set of movies. Guardians is close, but I would say that because Winter Soldier is probably my favorite movie of the MCU. Civil War is very, very solid, and I agree with you that First Avenger did a fine job of an origin story with, I would make a couple caveats, but, the MCU's all over the map these days. So, it's a good choice.
Yeah, it's pretty well known. If you ask my friends, that Winter Soldier is probably my favorite of the MCU, and it's also one of those movies where you could probably take it out of the MCU and put it into like a standalone movie, and it's a spy drama, right? And it would work, and it's fun, and it's almost like you're watching a James Bond movie, but with
Jason Bourne.
Or Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne with superheroes, right? Because remember the first Jason Bourne where they had all these other strange assassins trying to take him out, and they would just kind of come and go. And I'm like, that kind of is why Winter Soldier works for me, because it's espionage, and
Yeah, that scene when he jumps out of the airplane right in the beginning, the intro, it still gives me kind of the shivers. I think that's just such a cool scene when he lands on the boat and he runs around. Yeah. So he hasn't really got the credit he always deserved, and now in the last 10 years or so, he's gotten that. So I think it's really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it has materialized and took him from sort of a. I mean, gosh, to be honest, going through the 90s and the 2000s when this was like my heyday of time, really collecting. I sold comics for a little while, those kinds of things. And, he and Iron Man and stuff like that. Even the Hulk. That's not true. I'll table the Hulk for a minute. But yeah, Captain America and Iron Man were sort of like B comics. They weren't like the top selling comics or anything like that. Hulk become popular because of the McFarlane art, and then they brought in Dale Keown and stuff like that. So it had a great run through Grey Hulk and things like that. Iron Man and Cap and Avengers kind of had a resurgence with some of the different reboots that they tried, and some just kind of were popular for a while. Those are still the early days too. It's like they would randomly try variant covers and things like that. So some of those things would draw attention to those type of characters.
Yeah, and I kind of blame mainstream when I was a kid because they were always pushing Batman, or they were always pushing Superman or Spider-Man, and they never. So if you're not a kid, if you're a kid, you don't really know a lot of that. You don't really get to know the history of comics, so unless someone tells you, right? So I was kind of bummed that I really didn't get to. I don't know, like get to know him when I was a kid. It was mostly when I was in college and stuff when I started really reading the comics and kind of understanding what they all meant and stuff like that. So it was. I'm glad I discovered him in my adult age, but I wish I would have discovered him more when I was a kid. So
Yeah, my generation grew up on like Marvel in the 60s had done like little animation shows. So those were sort of around for us, but they weren't as they'd kind of fizzled out. So Spider-Man, the Hulk TV show, these kind of kept Marvel in our lexicon. Like even if we weren't reading comics, we all knew. And then of course, but that back then we could get comics at the grocery store. Like for us, it was like my grandmother was my gateway drug. I've told this story many times. It was like, how can I get? She'd take me to this little thrift store, and they had 10 for $1 comics in this basket thing, and I could just get whatever. And then at the grocery store, if I was good, whatever, it was a quarter /25/35/45 cents or whatever. And that was my gateway drug of reading beyond the scope of what could be out there. And then, like you said earlier, the 1989 Batman was kind of the game changer. 89 Batman changed everything.
it was. So, I didn't even know really what a superhero was until I saw that movie. And then I just kept following, like, who's this guy? Who's this girl? Who's this person? Like, what does this character do? You get down a little rabbit hole, but it's fun, and I still enjoy it today. I'm not really into a lot of the new stuff, but I'm curious on some of the. I just don't understand what some of the things are doing.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back around to that. Let's just showcase some vintage stuff for folks to understand what we're talking about. So Captain America and some of this stuff had been around in Tales of Suspense. So then it switches with issue 100. Yes. That's even cooler, man. Having those vintage. Because a lot of people go, Captain America 100. It's like, well, yeah, that's the first issue because it was Tales of Suspense and it become this. So this is kind of your jumping in point, especially if you have a digital account, folks. If you want to jump in, Kirby and Lee. This is literally the stereotype of the Kirby and Lee era of Stan throwing out ideas and stories faster than they can get the pen to paper and try to keep up. And this is, again, I know you can definitely speak to this too. Well, first off, this issue is great because if you've never seen original Avengers, because I think it was Avengers issue number 4 when they thaw Cap out, right? Yep. This recaps all of that for you, so you kind of have an idea of how this fits into the comic book, the Earth 616 history. But this is, again, look at so I wanted to I'm going to blow it way up because I want people to understand why folks like me, I know you're a big fan of this, so why we get so critical of modern comics and digital art. One of my big pet peeves with digital art is there's just no features. There's just nothing there. It's just copy and paste features. And Jack, like these are just no-name Zemo baddies in the background.
Yeah.
And this guy has a completely different, all three of them have different facial features. It's very slight. I'm not saying that they're distinct, but they are different thugs. Yeah. They are clearly different thugs.
You really have to look at the art to see what's going, to really understand the whole story. And some of the modern comics, it's very simple, right? So like in this background, you can like the details on the floor, The details on
Look at
her
her glasses.
Yeah.
Look at her glasses have little hash marks to
And
give you some
he
text.
drew all this. So
Yes.
and it wasn't in a computer, and
No.
I'm a graphic artist, and I understand, like I use computers on a daily basis to do my work, so I get how easy it can be to do that, but drawing something like this is takes such skill and time. And as some people know, he really didn't do it for a whole lot of money at that time either. He was just doing it because he wanted to. So
And I have to admit, I really love the fact going back and revisiting some of these books.
this is one I wish I had. I do not have this one, but I wish I had it.
I just really just love. I know
Yeah.
this is my surprise people. I love the imperfection of it because it's hand drawn, right? I love the imperfection of it's not perfect. Like it's not a perfect. It's a similar problem. Like the designs don't always match, but Cap does look pretty much the same every time. But then every now and again you'll get a face or something that's just a little bit different, and it's sort of like super cool. And then you get this, and this is where the Kirby is just next level. He has intricate details on the machinery in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
it's amazing. And it just, you wonder how long it took him to draw, right? You maybe hours, days, but who knows?
You know what? I don't think I've ever heard anyone. I wonder if who would know. Like, did Kirby ever explain how fast he would turn a page?
Yeah.
Because now you watch artists, they'll do these live streams of their drawing, and they're talking about how slow they are. Like it'll take them days to do 8. I'm like, there is no way. They were generating so many books and so fast. He had to have just had this system of how he would just go. And I know they did that on purpose. Like he was always. There are certain books, and I don't know if you know if there's certain ones of these that he drew before Stan had all the dialogue. He had the general story. Stan's drawing all of this, and then Jack Kirby's drawing all this, and then Stan has to go back and fill in some of the details and some of the intricacies.
Yeah.
Let's jump an issue or so ahead here, because we get a Red Skull. And Red Skull, you can really start to see how different his face will look in some different frames. Let me find it. I just read all this, so bear with me while I try to find it. Because here's our first shot.
Yeah.
And then when we go here, I can see how different. It's little.
The movie did such a good job, right, of making Red Skull like look like he should. I thought that was so cool.
I have to be honest. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was still, I still felt like, and again, this is the MCU. I loved fan fiction stuff. I just wish that he had come back and been the mastermind behind Civil War or something. I wish there was some other piece to say, no, Skull's not gone. Skull's never gone. Like it's just there's some other piece.
Well, he came back. He was just on a mountain.
Well, that was a cheeky, silly. For him to replace the character Death in Infinity War was just a waste of my time. I didn't. I don't really have a major grievance with it, but I'm also like, no. It's not
it didn't make sense. Yeah.
So, but if you go back and read these folks, I'm telling you what, it's so much fun because they're literally just action comic books. A lot of fun, good versus evil. But you can see this is one of the silliest things I'd ever seen. Have you seen this before?
Yeah.
The inflata suit. I laughed out loud when I saw the inflata suit.
All kinds of crazy stuff. There's all kinds of fun covers with Kirby and Cap. It's just great.
Yeah, inflata suit made me laugh. I want to bring back the inflata suit.
Now I do have. It's a reprint, but it's a collection of the bicentennial where he's in all kinds of different costumes, like a Western costume. He's in like a colonial costume. He's in an astronaut suit. And I've been really meaning to get back into that. But the bicentennial book, to celebrate 76 was a fantastic little group of books too, if you do want to look that up. So
look at this great cover. 103 is a beautiful cover.
Yep. Yeah.
I actually, when I reread this, I went to eBay quickly to see what I would have to pay to get myself a nice
some of these are up there now. Luckily, I have found some of these kind of hidden gems. Either at like a thrift store that doesn't know what they have, or they just don't understand. They don't really know, and they just sell them as is. Or
When you find them, do you always add more? Like you have duplicate like multiple copies? 'Cause I mean, at this point, if I was that big a fan and I saw anything between like 100 and 150, I probably would just keep buying all of them.
I've tried. I have been curbed a little bit from
okay, fair enough.
The boss of the house, but
gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha.
But no, it's always look for these classic ones, yeah. So you're coming up on it, but one of my favorite, of my gems is 113, and
I say we got to be getting close to something that's jumped ahead to 113.
That's the one like I was like, yeah, that one right there.
This was
that's
so
one of my
incredible. Mm-hmm.
That was my first like pretty in good condition classic that's framed up on my wall right now, that I did divvy up some cash for. So, and this one is fun because he fakes his death to get back at Hydra, and it's just with you said an inflatable suit, but this one he has something else, some other weird.
This has a Jim Steranko. So Steranko takes over here, and Jim, what he did so well was he made us feel that we were still in like the Kirby universe with the way the motion and the action worked.
Yep.
I met Jim. I know not everybody likes Jim. I found Jim to be super, super cool. Like he seemed like he loved that we're fans when I met Jim. He was just super, super cool. And I want to also, I didn't say it earlier, but I want to give super credit to Tom Palmer on inking, because if it's not for Tom, my gosh, this is just incredible work.
Yeah.
And look how film noir that looks. That's so beautiful.
And that's why I enjoy comics. It's not just because of the stories. It's also the art. And it'd be so cool if you could have like a room full of all these arts, across the room, because you would get some really neat pieces just by one page. Like if you had this one on your wall, just a page, it would be really cool to have framed.
Somebody has them, my friend. Somebody has them.
I'm sure. There you go.
There's our funeral for a friend. Before there was a funeral for a friend, there was funeral for a friend, folks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do a couple more. Let's see what's 114.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. That's on my list too. Yeah.
This is a to get list.
Yeah, I mean, most of any in this little era, it's just a style I like. It's just so cool.
We changed again. Only reason I'm pointing that out is so this is John Romita Sr. The only reason I point that out is because I want folks to understand that for us veteran readers, when they would change artists, it didn't mean the whole book had to drastically change tone and feel. We didn't have to have some major color palette change where now it's suddenly going to be a bunch of magentas and aqua colors. I mean, I didn't have to have. I mean, everyone can joke with you, man. You can laugh. If you've watched any of my videos reacting to some of these modern comics, it's me face palming like, I can't do this right now. Like, this is killing me. My rods and cones are all askew because of the color palette this person's using. Like, this is nuts. So, yeah. So let me think if there's I think it's 125. Yeah, I love this cover. They're dragging him away, but they're faceless and off the page. It's like within the castle waits the captive. The surprise villain of the year. And I'm like, oh yes, let's get to this one. Oh yeah. I was like, this is Oh, it's for the ladies. There's Cap for you. They knew what they knew. They weren't selling to girls.
Yeah, but it's just.
But it's okay.
And this was a classic suit too that I always liked, with the red boots.
Yeah, I agree. And early Falcon right here.
Yeah,
Falcon's back, so it's super cool there.
He actually had a bird.
Yes. Yeah, there's the bird.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's take a quick. So how far into I want to say the timeline did you go? Did you go into like when Winter Soldier comes back and some of the stuff that Ed Brubaker did, or Civil
Um,
War and some of that kind of stuff? Or
I basically bounce around. So if I find a cover that I like, and I'm like, okay, looks like a cool cover, I'll go and read it. But then I'll try. These classic ones they're kind of somewhat difficult to find, and based on value and things like that. And
sure,
I don't really like. I could go to the digital reads, but I like to hold it. Right. I like to touch it and feel the comic and smell the comic. It just feels better. But yeah, I don't really like. I guess what I'm trying to say is I most likely read what I get, and then if I eventually get to continue the story, I could, or I'll go back and read it.
okay,
I'll just go bits and pieces. I don't try to. I just like, okay, this is a cool cover. I think it's neat. I get the message on it. And not a lot of his books kind of like went book by book. So and so on. So, but I do remember, though I haven't caught up recently to the Winter Soldier thing, but I should probably do that. So,
well, it's okay. I mean, I'm not trying to pressure you into that. There are some that are pretty good in the Brubaker era. But you can easily jump into. I mean, you may already have many of these. That's going to jump ahead to like 300.
okay.
So you end up with this run it's in this era.
Is this no, I'm trying to think because I remember there was a brief, okay. Yeah. His suit is still the same.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah. No, this is still very traditional stuff that we get in through this era here. This is where you're going to start seeing he has like just enemies of the week.
Yeah.
It kind of keeps going for a while, and then it works its way along to one of my favorite covers of all time is this one, right?
Yeah, that's another popular cover out there.
Mark Gruenwald, the late great underrated Mark Gruenwald, did this sequence. This was a cover that I saw on a wall. And I wasn't reading Captain America. Like I was like, it was part of the Avengers stuff I would read. So if they would reference anything, I'd spider out as a reader. But I saw this and I was like, okay, I don't stop everything. I need to understand what this is.
Yeah.
It's cool design on every level.
So what year did that come out? I forgot. 68.
No, that's the series. So it's not. It's. I don't want to.
Oh, it says it right there on the top. It says 3/32, 1968.
No, that's the that's going to 87. So that's going to reference the series.
Okay.
So, yeah. So what they do, if you read digitally, this is great. I'm glad we're having that conversation because I don't think I've ever said this before. If you're reading digitally on a lot of sites and the way they'll upload and they'll store them on their apps, their database, things like that. So what that means is Captain America 1968. That's the series that we're in. So that's why it's in parentheses.
That's
so
really
when
confusing.
it gets restarted, that date is like, and you'll see volume 1 versus like volume 2, those kinds of things. So you have to figure out how the database, or if you're using Marvel Unlimited or you're using a couple of the other different ones, how they kind of have everything. But the pull down next to it, it will just it's keeping you with Captain America 1960. That's all of these books. They're all
okay.
Yeah,
That's confusing, but I get it.
yeah, that's how this one works. If we go to a different one, it would just say volume 2.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, this is where he stops, and then we end up with John Walker, right, and Bucky and. The stuff that they kind of used on the show when they tried to do Falcon and the Winter Soldier was where some of this stuff kind of comes into play. U.S. Agent is going to become So
yeah. Look at that Daredevil back there.
Oh, cool. Yeah. They Mark Gruenwald stuff is it's fine. I would definitely say anything he does.
Falcon looks like a wrestler.
They try different things with his. He's like totally on the juice, right? He's like, yeah. But that's that era too. You're starting to get into the 80s where they're trying different things. U.S. Agent was, I think, also darker and edgier for that reason.
I think Captain America got bigger in the 90s too. He was pretty. There's the famous Rob Liefeld. Almost like he has man boobs because his pecs were so over. It was so absurdly drawn. Yeah. So there's that sort of. That's what made it fun. That was made it fun. That's what made it fun. So, and what's cool is like, it didn't matter, right? It was still the same character, even though the art changed. They kept his persona the way he wanted to help the world. they never really altered it too much. So
Right.
unlike today.
Yeah. We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to have me think about. I'm everyone at home knows I have issues. It's okay.
We all have issues. Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I got a lot, brother. I got enough for everyone, I think. So let me go to this. I thought since it's not Golden Age, but since it's Captain America, I thought it was only appropriate that we visit the first one.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to the first one. I never had a 4. You know what? I keep conflicted because I know I had like 16 and 19 and things like that, but there's part of me that thought I had a 4, but I don't think I had a 4.
Yeah, I even have a copy of. I don't think it's part of Avengers, but it's a part of Thor's run where the first time he fights Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have that one as well. That one's a fun one, and I think it's right around the same period of time.
Yep. And I just wanted to say too, if you were reading Captain America 100 and they're retelling the story, they literally redo the entire panels. And there's a little blurb that Stan wrote, like, well, since we are the ones who did it, it's like we're allowed to do this. Like it was a very self-aware comment.
Yeah. I love Iron Man in this panel here. Like he looks so.
Oh, that back, how flat the helmet would be.
Yeah, he looks so different.
Because it seemed like he had like a plate over his face rather than a full helmet. It didn't feel like he had a full helmet in a way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you see it from the side, it doesn't quite look the same. Like it's just different. No. It's just them figuring out their designs. I mean, this is like issue 4. So it's like, how do you put them in next to each other? How do you size them up? So who's what size of whom and how they're going to go through everything.
And this is that tells you the story, how he ended up.
Yeah. How Bucky.
Last days.
Yeah. Yep. So this is why I think I had this book, because I remember this vividly. I remember Bucky's death vividly as a kid. Reading it. I was very traumatized.
I think Captain America had more Buckies than Robin.
Look at the face. Oh boy. Woo. Yeah.
I think he had a lot of Buckies. Not sure why.
Look at Jack. Jack's still like, the inconsistency is hand drawn though.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how when they digitally scan them, how you can see how the inking is off a little bit on this copy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what made it fun, right?
It's so it feels so real to me.
Yeah. When you have a real book, that's what I'm saying. Like it's good to have that, because if you could have one of those printed mishaps where like the page was slightly shifted, and then you do see some of those lines overlapping. And I think that's fun about a book. Usually in the digital world, it's so precisely clean. There is no flaws. And I think it kind of makes it less real than what you got back in the day. So
it's true. That's true. And since we're talking older comics, I haven't shown it off in a while. So someone's new who didn't seen it. I know you haven't seen it. So it's the only book that survived from my childhood.
Okay.
So it's the only one from little 6-year-old pops, or however old we moved when I was 9. So it was definitely before 9. So probably 5 or 6. This is a reprint. It is Marvel Superheroes, so it's not actually the Hulk. It's because they would do is they just reprint them to fill, the racks. Yeah. But it was a Hulk story. Doesn't have a cover. That's long. That was long abandoned. Yeah. So I bagged and boarded it.
Cool,
it's been back here with us. So yeah, it's my. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. Before I was a collector, so to speak, I was just a kid. So
yeah,
that's the only one.
And when you're a kid, you don't really think of that kind of stuff, right? You just think of you're just thinking how fun it is. I'm reading this character, or I'm playing with this action figure. You don't really think of like, oh gosh, should I take it out of the box type of deal.
It didn't even occur to us. It didn't. I remember having trading cards, like football, baseball trading cards, and stacking them like a house of cards, like playing with them at one point.
Yeah, I would put them in my.
It's absurd. It's just insane. I was playing with them like a house of cards. That's completely insane.
I'm pretty sure I had a few King Griffey Jr. baseball cards stuck in my bike spokes.
Yeah, that was a weird thing we did too. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had a rookie card of someone that I probably should have kept. And it was done something with. So
do you so you don't really read many modern comics and like that? Do you listen to folks about some of their recommendations and things that are still, because there are good things out. I at least try to go, and folks can tell by the view counts on our different channels collectively. I don't tend to do things in real time, so I don't look at those view counts as even remotely being relevant, because it could be a book that's been out for even 2 or 3 weeks and no one cares anymore. But there's a massive difference between like the Image comics or even Mark Millar's comics versus the main two, basically.
Lately, I've been, as far as modern, I've just been reading comics or getting comics that are from people that I know within the community. So if you like, for example, Jason Sandberg, he wrote Jupiter, and he's doing Jupiter. That's someone I will enjoy reading and sponsoring or helping out, because that helps out a independent artist. Same with like Jay over there at Drunk 3PO and a couple other areas. It's just they're doing something very brave in a time where you can either make it or break it. And the fact that they're even doing it is cool to me. I don't have the time to do something like that. I do a channel, sure, but it's neat to see them kind of use some of their talents for good, and I think I wish them all the best on all of that stuff. So that's really as far as modern. Yeah,
I think it's been great to see that, because there's always been that sort of the old way where you would do an indie book like that, or indie creator, you'd meet them. They've done 4 books at the most. They've done all of them, and they have only got like X number of copies that they could afford to print. They fronted all this money, and they're there just trying to get publicity, get attention, get it sold, get in the door, whatever. And then every now and again, you'll find one that made it. But most that was their shot, right? That was their one shot, And
you would see that at Comic Cons too. They would say, "Look, you can buy all 5 right now, or you can buy one, and come back." And that struggle until you had that internet boost from the sites that you have now, like Indiegogo.
Sure.
It was very hard to get your world out there, because Marvel and DC and Image and a couple others, they owned the market, so it was really hard to get into that. And I think
they're in these big cities. I mean, if people didn't or weren't able to move to these, New York and out west, or where these big conglomerates are, and same thing with all entertainment, right? TV and movies, things like that. Now with the internet, it's just the world's just totally restructured.
It's same with TV and movies. You can watch so much just by a flick of your finger, and you don't have to rely on a magazine or a book to tell you what to watch. You can literally just decide what you want to do whenever you want to do it. And
they should rely on YouTubers like you to find out what they should.
I think that's a whole freedom of entertainment that we never even thought of. And some people still don't get it. They're still stuck on cable, and they don't understand this whole new thing that's been brewing for the past 10 years.
But agreed.
Maybe one day.
Well, it's great to talk comics with you, my friend. Again, folks, all the links are there in the description. You can connect to him, get to know him more. I will actually be, by the time you guys see this, I will have already done a show with him. So that link will be there as well. I'll go back and make sure I have that link in there so you can see us live on his channel doing a show together. So it's been great to talk to you, man. It's always fun to also talk about the greats. I love talking about, even if somebody who's maybe not into Captain America, if you just want a fun action type comic, it's retro, it's old. Kirby art is just
I even got my kid to like him. He dressed up. Yeah. He said he was dressing up as me, but he dressed up as Captain America for Halloween.
So you're secretly Captain America? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. So there's the outfit there behind me.
It looks like it'll fit. Well, with that, folks, we will head out the door. Till next time, folks, take care. Be blessed. I am Pops. Take care, everybody.